Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dev Chat number 8, the end of the 2022 year for Puzzling Places, where today we're going to be talking about two major things, or actually three things. One of them being our newest member on a team, Richelle Banas. We'll get to you in just a second. Hello, Richelle. The other thing we're going to be talking about is the simple mode, which was released earlier this month, actually just a few weeks ago, and also, the new update that's going to be releasing in just under an hour from when we're recording today, the holiday special puzzle, a puzzle called Christmas on Fell Street. So, three very exciting things. So, let's start with introducing ourselves. On my right is Shahrabi, who is the game designer and technical programmer on the team. And I myself am Azad Balabanian, a Puzzlemaker. And on our newest member is Richelle Banas, the community manager of Puzzling Places. Hello, Richelle.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be part of my first dev chat, and definitely excited to be working on Puzzling Places and getting to know you all. So thank you.
That's right. I'm really happy that you're here, and also for players to see your face. They might have noticed that your avatar has been showing up in various channels, helping answering people's questions and making announcements. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll be seeing a lot more of you over the next couple coming weeks and months.
Definitely.
Yeah. So just as a reminder for people that are here that have questions or they have comments, etc., we have a event chat for people to post things in. So it's the channel right above this voice chat. So feel free to ask questions there. Richelle will be there to facilitate and also to read your questions out here. So, Richelle, maybe let's start with you. How did you end up working in VR or upon Puzzling Places or just in games in general?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm a very passionate gamer myself. I'd say that that's something that, I've always wanted to do growing up. So I'm just super happy to have finally made it into the space. I've had the chance to work with other indie studios, and I've launched a couple games on, platforms like Steam, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Game Pass, even. But now, kind of wanting to take on my next my next kind of venture in VR, which is kind of a hobby that I've been super interested in over the last year, ever since I got my Quest. That's just been like an area that I just kind of fell down the rabbit hole, and I'm just so impressed by the technology, and I believe in the future of it. So when I saw this opportunity with Puzzling Places and realities.io, I just thought it would be absolutely perfect to get to work with this community and on a game that is so unique and so special. Yeah, when I got to try the game, I was honestly surprised by, because for me, I'm not a big puzzle person in real life, but putting together puzzles in VR was just so amazing. And I'm sure everybody can relate to this. Like the first click of putting together your first two pieces is just so satisfying. And yeah, it's been a really great time so far, and I am loving to. I'd love to get to know the game a lot better, and work my way up to 400 pieces eventually. And yeah, so I think that's kind of a brief summary of how I got here. But if you have any other questions about my time in games or the kinds of games that I play, feel free to ask.
All right. So apart from Puzzling Places, what other VR games that really captured your interest and love in VR?
Yeah, so of course, some of the first games that I tried would be, I got super into Beat Saber. I actually got really into Beat Saber to the point where I bought one of those. I don't know what they're called, but it's like this rod that you can attach your controllers to each end and do Darth Maul mode.
Nice.
And that's how deep I got into Beat Saber. Just because I love, being active with it, and just the feedback of the controllers feels so good, and the music was great. So that was one of the first games that I got super into. And then when I started to play other games like I Expect You to Die, or recently I tried this new sandbox game called Loam, which is super cool. I think I just realized the kind of potential that this technology has. So yeah, I'd say like I play a bunch of different genres, but I lean more towards like chill, sandbox, kind of relaxing at the end of the day, which is why, Puzzling Places is one of those.
Yeah. No, I think we can all agree on that end. I don't think we're all avid puzzlers outside of Puzzling Places, but this game certainly has made us into very avid puzzlers. I guess let's dive into our second topic of simple mode. So you mentioned 400 piece puzzles. I think that's like a perfect segue into what is simple mode, why it was created. So Shah, this has been probably one of the projects that you've put a lot of time into. So can you tell us a little bit more about simple mode?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we do, like most other game developers, is to look at our statistics and try to figure out, how do people play the game? How can we improve the game? Obviously, that's something that every developer needs to be careful of, not to look too much into data and really like let data decide for you. But it's important to just understand people's behavior. And one of the things that we have noticed about Puzzling Places since ages ago was that our hardcore players play the game hours, like truly hours. Like I seeing something like 800 or 900 minutes of gameplay per user is not that untypical. And if you think about it, the reason for that is the 400 piece puzzles, because the 400 piece puzzle offer you something between, like, if you're a very experienced player, let's say 4 hours on easier puzzles, and if you're just starting off with 400 piece puzzles, you're talking 10 to 11 hours, right? And nowadays, I think you have other 20 puzzles in the base game, something like that, 20, 21.
Yes, I think we just hit 20 as of today.
As of today, 20. And so if 10 hours per that's 200 hours of gameplay. So we see in our statistics that, okay, some people really, get the hours out of the game and really enjoy it, which is great. On the other hand, we have also a lot of players that play like 25 piece puzzles, and that's also perfectly fine with us. Like, we have it there for a reason. We just play 25 or 50. However, initially, as we started making the game, we kind of thought, okay, 25 is maybe the starting position, and you would kind of move up. And I think a lot of players do that, but for some people, they never get past that 25 piece puzzle or 50 piece puzzle because they get very overwhelmed with just the number of puzzle pieces in front of them, or they can't. They wouldn't think it would be fun to struggle so much because it's just looks too intimidating, maybe, or too challenging. And we were seeing that in our statistics that each difficulty level of Puzzling Places is played equally. Like, there are as many people playing 25 as there are 50, as there are 100, as there are 200, as there are 400. And again, that's good. That means that we have actually offered good options to our players, and we're happy about that. But of course, there is a massive difference if you play Puzzling Places only in 25, and a 25 piece puzzle is going to take you between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how difficult it is and how used you are to the game. Well, you're going to be done with the entire game in like 2 hours, which again is not bad for the price tag that we ask, but at the end of the day, still, we have so much more that we can offer in terms of content, because some of these puzzles are very detailed, right? Like, not some of them, all of them are very detailed. And if you play them in higher piece count, the puzzle you get at the end gets to be larger and larger and larger. And you really see a lot of the details that exist in these locations, and some of the details we have put in, only if you play at 400 piece puzzle. So a question kind of popped up. We thought, okay, for the type of people who don't maybe want to be let's say confronting that huge challenge of, okay, how they even play a 400 piece puzzle, how long does it take, can we come up with some sort of game mode to well, we didn't even know if this was going to be a game mode, but some sort of feature to help people get on that journey and play 400 piece puzzle in a way that matches them, that suits them. And we had a bunch of different ideas. We started thinking about it. One of the ideas that we thought about was maybe to have a hint mode that, you go when you're stuck, you just do hint, and it gives you basically plug that in. And a bunch of other ideas too, but none of them seemed right to the legacy of what the rest of Puzzling Places is. Because obviously we didn't want to make a game within a game, right? We wanted to still offer the same game feel, the same satisfaction and game loop, but just to the people who maybe don't want to have that challenge of. It's not even the challenge is still there. It's just that overwhelming feeling of how do I deal with these number of pieces. And usually when we are designing something for Puzzling Places, our design paradigm is take the simplest solution that is kind of like solving a bunch of different problems at the same time. That is easy to communicate, that you can explain in one sentence, and chances are that's your solution. That's what you should be doing. And in the case of the simple mode, that was very straightforward. The question was, can we just take a 400-piece puzzle and chop it up in smaller 25-piece puzzles? So for the people who like to do 25, they would be continue doing 25, but they basically have 8 times as many puzzles as they used to in the base game. So that's kind of like how it started. We already had this feature prototyped in an earlier version of Puzzling Places for a completely different project that we were doing. The other project that we were doing, I can't really talk about it because NDAs and stuff like that, but the core of it was more educational. It was more like a tour guide type of thing where we had these things called chapters, which we assigned per hand. We say, hey, these pieces kind of belong to each other, and you would play that first, get maybe some sort of explanation about what you just puzzled, and then goes to the next and the next and the next. So we kind of decided to hijack that to prototype this, and we started like looking into automating this process. So the simple mode, as it launched, obviously was working for all the puzzles already out there, and it's going to work for every puzzle that comes out from now on. And potentially in maybe perhaps in other platforms, or if we ever get to optimizing Quest and have even higher number of puzzle pieces, it would work for them too. So automatically you would always have a simple mode variation of more difficult settings. And it was important for us that this would be automated because frankly, we have quite an insane release schedule compared to most other games. It's rare that you would find any game that's doing live content of, something equivalent of, I don't know, perhaps 30 to 40 hours of gameplay every month. That's pretty nuts. And we can't afford to do this all by hand. So we had to optimize it. So a lot of time went to just integrating this right into our source code, making it right so that it actually is automated, fits our workflows, and doesn't require us to go backtrack and fix some stuff there. Regarding backtracking, we actually ended up making a mistake that we had to fix regarding save files anyway. It was interesting to see some people got really upset by that. That hey, I'm not upset; they were lovely, but that people really do track their best time. And
thankfully, it wasn't game breaking, but it did break the time and puzzle counter for a puzzle. But that's all fixed now.
Yeah, it broke some hearts, but again, thankfully, our community is very respectable and very friendly, and they just were like, okay, problem is here, just fix it. The interesting thing was we knew that might happen, so we at so many points tried to test to make sure that doesn't happen, but somehow one edge case just got through. And at any case, we were working on this and the design. We worked on it for such a long time. We try to keep the scope small as we usually do to have the time to really polish the design side of things. And for simple mode, the core idea was to kind of like avoidance that you always have a puzzle to puzzle, as in you're done and then you press next chapter and then you play that and the next chapter and you play that. And all the emotions and the charge that comes with a feature is forgiving. It's let's say less intimidating. Maybe it's a bit motivating. This was a lot of if it looks simple at the end, then we did our job well, but we did go quite around until we got there. For example, our audio designer was saying this was the hardest audio he ever did for Puzzling Places. So we made this. Okay, before we even got to the pulse, I thought let's make a little lock, right? And to have this satisfying feeling of, when you unlock boxes in some sort of like RPG or whatever, and then you get some sort of prize. So I wanted to have a bit of that positive emotions of, oh, I just unlocked something with the next chapter.
Do you mean you wanted to make loot boxes in Puzzling Places?
Absolutely not, but
that's an idea, right? No, never.
Maybe people can buy the keys. Yeah, so that was kind of the idea, was to at least the association of you unlock something and you get a surprise out of it. So I made that there was a little lock and it was beautifully animated, and you click on it and it just vibrates and it just pops up. So we user tested with some players, and the first thing people say, oh, I don't know why I can't play 400-piece puzzles, they are locked. And I'm like, what do you mean they are locked? Are they gone? And what's going on? The problem was they would see the lock and they think, oh, I should go back and play something else to unlock this puzzle so that I continue. And I was like, man, this doesn't work. That's such a shame. But just putting a play button there is not going to have that positive emotional association. So we started adding the pulse. And now it was time to do the sound for the pulse. And our sound designer was like, okay, what are we going to do? I already have so many sounds in the puzzle. There's not much space left to add a new one that is kind of like audible the entire time. So he thought, okay, we should maybe take the lower frequencies, something a bit more bass, which is not really being used often in puzzles and in various different sound effects. And he started adding like a rhythmic, very low frequency type of sound. And our audio designer in Dev Chat number 2, I think he was on, fantastic, amazing, talented guy. He hasn't watched much horror films, so he doesn't have those associations with horror. But for me, who watches a lot of horror films, that low rhythmic breathing thing, I was like, oh man, that really scares me. I don't know what this is. So he was really struggling with finding something that is, let's say, positive, but at the same time invisible, because the sounds of the simple mode themselves are not the thing that's at the forefront, right? It's just a feature to help you to puzzle, and you still need to highlight the puzzle. That's still a thing. So yeah, we did put quite a lot of effort in it. We still don't have the collected data over months to see if this actually brings our median closer to our average. So the average of what most people play to what our hardcore audience plays. But our hope is that we just unlocked, let's say, the joy of Puzzling Places, like the most the heightened joy of Puzzling Places for some of the players who are not maybe so hardcore or invested in. And an interesting side effect was that our hardcore players also enjoy simple mode. We didn't design that with in mind, but after the design was done, I thought, oh, there are a bunch of puzzles that I had been meaning to play, but they didn't grab me so strongly that I was like, I'm going to invest 6 hours into this. So now I have a chance to just play it, to just, play it in 2-3 hours. And now a 400-piece puzzle with simple mode does go down to 2.5-3 hours-ish, depending on how hard it is. If it's harder than it goes 4-5. I think it's Biarritz, you're back to 10 hours again.
Let me share my screen so we can also look visually at what simple mode looks like. So I'll also maximize it here. So the idea is, the 200 pieces and the 400 pieces get split up into their own smaller chunks. So let's maximize this. I'm also muting the video. Richelle here did an amazing job with this video where she walks us through how the simple mode works. So, Shah, this is the button you're talking about, right? This used to be a lock where you have to unlock it to move to the next chapter.
Exactly. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, exactly.
So now it's a play button which encourages you to continue going through the chapters, and as you can see, it's a collection of 25 or 50 pieces that you need to put together. You finish that chapter, you press next, and you go. So now you can also see that our puzzle piece selection menu has expanded by two more entries: the simple 200 and simple 400. Shah, maybe do you want to talk about the randomizer as well, in case people get stuck on a chapter?
Yeah. So the randomizer, that was one of those features that made life so much harder for fixing one edge case. So basically, the issue that we had is that, okay, we made a simple mode, we tested, and it's fine for 95% of the puzzles, right? But this is not by hand created, right? So this is automated. And I started noticing a comparison between what happens when I play the game in 400 and what happens when I play the game in simple mode. In one of the first puzzles that I tried with simple mode that was really frustrating was the chalice. This was from Variety Pack number 1, I think, came out at the beginning of this year. And the chalice is a difficult puzzle because it's an object. Usually a puzzle piece has different buildings inside and whatnot when it's a bit larger. And that makes it a bit easier to connect things because there's a street going through it and all these things. But the chalice doesn't have all those global features. It's just an object with a bunch of different textures. And just happened that the first chapter of the simple mode assigned for the chalice was probably the most difficult part of the chalice, which was a corner where it doesn't make any sense. You don't know what you're looking at. You have no idea how to puzzle this. And then I just got stuck on 3 pieces, and it was so frustrating. And I was like, oh man, this is not working. If I'm so frustrated, this is the exact opposite of what simple mode is supposed to do. So I started thinking about what the problem is. When we play a 400-piece puzzle, what usually happens is that if you get to a difficult section, so first of all, in 400-piece puzzle, the typical workflow is you sort everything out before you start puzzling. You basically create your own simple mode before you start, getting into the actual puzzle. And if you, in one of your groups, if you look at a few pieces and you're not able to progress, you just don't know what more to do, you just switch to another group. You're like, okay, I'm going to start working in a different part of the puzzle. And the more you work on the puzzle, the more understanding and intuition you develop. You start noticing specific things about the lighting, about the texture, about how things are shaped and positioned. And then suddenly you're working in a completely different part of the puzzle and you're like, I know where that piece goes. And then you just suddenly switch to completely somewhere else and you put it in. And this was completely missing from the simple mode because, of course, we envision the simple mode to be played linearly, which is fine for, like I said, majority of the puzzle pieces. But because it's generated procedurally, there can very well happen like 1 out of 10 that, or maybe not even 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, that a puzzle is segmented in a way that the most difficult part just pops up first. And to kind of avoid people getting really frustrated, we decided to add the randomizer, which was, the idea is that, well, it's actually not randomizing. That's just a trick we do on the design side of things to make communication easier. It just basically shows you the next chapter. It just moves you to the next chapter and then the next chapter and then the next chapter. And we tested the first variation with some players, and the problem was that people started using the randomizer like they use the tabs. They started just going through it all the time. They would like puzzle a little bit, and when they were like stuck a tiny bit, they would just switch to the next chapter. That was, of course, also not what we wanted, because if you keep using randomizer more and more, what happens is that you're going to have to keep more in your mind. So one of the nice things about the linearity is that you just have to take care of the little things you know about the puzzle. You just have to take care of these 10 or 15 different potential gaps that you need to fill. But the more you go through the randomizer, the more you expand the problem space that you're solving. So we don't actually want to incentivize that, and the randomizer button just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So now it's just a tiny dice on the corner. But at the end of the day, it's there for that 1% case that you just happen to get a puzzle that just happens to have a segmentation that is very badly chosen automatically. And you get stuck and you don't want to feel frustrated, and you just basically get the next chapter to come back to it later.
That's great. Yeah. So for players, let us know how you feel about the simple mode. Have you played it? Have you tried it? How do you like it? This is a feature for you. This is a feature for players who don't like to play 200 or 400 piece puzzles, but also it's a feature for the people that do. So we'd love to hear about how you're using it, how it fits into your puzzling workflow, into just your daily puzzling life. Which I'm sure it's a feature for a lot of our hardcore players. Should we talk about our next topic, which is the holiday special?
Yes.
Let's do it. And actually, for the people that are watching it live, you get to have a special sneak peek by 30 minutes before the puzzle is even released of what the puzzle is, what it looks like, and all its fun little secrets. So let's transition on over to you, Shah, so you can share your screen and I'll capture that.
Sure, sounds good. Let me bring out the Blender file. So, are you guys on the screen?
I am. Yes, we are. Excellent.
Perfect. Nice. So here's the new free puzzle for.
Can I also maybe give an introduction so that we make sure the people that worked on it are credited?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a scan by Taylor Houlihan, who captured this beautiful building called the Mermaid Building, built in the late 19th century in Baltimore. And yeah, that's the basis, and we'll also kind of like show what that looks like. But apart from that, I'll hand that over to you, Shah.
Yeah. So this is the new one. I'm not gonna spoil absolutely everything, so you can still have a lot to discover. But just a general thing that you would get from the trailer anyway. That's going to be dropping in 30 minutes. But exactly, this is a new free puzzle that's coming out today, and we like to give free puzzles. Like at least we try to do like 3 or 4 free puzzles a year. But they do take a long time to make, especially these puzzles, because we put a lot of effort in. If you have seen our previous dev chat, you know that we touch up the mood, the feels of the location, the lighting, we add things to the scene. We have some sort of like narrative in mind usually. And for this one specifically, we were doing too many things at the same time. Maybe we can talk a bit about that later when we kind of reflect back on the year about some of the stuff that we have worked on. Especially because I don't know where, but at some point we said that multiplayer would be coming now. Basically, I think we said that at the beginning of the year, and people were asking about it. So where's my multiplayer? So these were some of the stuff that we have been working on. So we can address that maybe a bit later. Sure. But we tried something new here this time from Workflow, which was quite exciting for us. Was we had we have good relationship with some let's say educational institutes, and some of them have to do mandatory internship, and we had 3 applicants that wanted to join, and we offered them, hey, you can basically make our players a puzzle, right? So this would be the first puzzle that's just created by a group of people that freshly joined Realities, and to just basically make a bunch of puzzles for you guys. And pretty exciting for us, because we wanted to see also how well documented our workflows are. Is this easy? Something easy that we can teach to other people? And we wanted to do a holiday special puzzle, which was different enough to the previous one. So if you guys have played the previous one, I think in the dev chat we did for the one from last year, I described it as like a not depressing but a heavy mood. Like I wanted to create some sort of mood where you're like in a European church, and outside people are killing each other because there's schism in church or whatever. So that was kind of like the mood that I wanted to go for there. And this time the idea was to do something else, something different, and our intern sat on it and did a fantastic job. So I'm going to be basically discussing or showcasing some of the stuff they have done. All credits to them. Basically, the thing that they wanted to do is they were really inspired by these advent calendars, which, Azad, is that a thing in America? I actually don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is? Okay. So
chocolates
the idea,
on the inside.
Yeah, chocolates on the inside, yeah. Not very good chocolate usually, but passable.
Good enough, yeah.
Good enough. We have tea bag here. Some have different teas inside. But yeah, so in each window there's like a different thing. Like it's a very happy little thing. And so these are, by the way, some of the mood board pictures that are used. I have talked about this before in the dev chat, that when we are doing these creative works, we don't create in vacuum. We do a lot of research, a lot of visual research. Typically in works like these, the more visual research you do, the better. Like at the end, the quality is directly associated with how much research and ideation you do. And these are some of those images used. I mean, I cannot zoom on this board too much because all our future puzzles are in here too. This is always such a little risky venture, but a risky business indeed. But yeah, you can see that basically the idea of these different windows, that was one of the main things that got our intern thinking about how could they bring that into our puzzle. And just generally having like a more positive feel compared to the previous puzzle, because the previous puzzle was a lot more moody. The cool thing with these windows is that you discover something new around every corner. And of course, that matches quite well with the idea of puzzling places, because in puzzling places, you are constantly trying to learn more about the location. So the way they did that basically is to have all these little stories in the windows. Again, I am not going to be spoiling all of these. You will be discovering them one by one yourself. But there is a lot going on basically in these windows. A lot of like really fun little stories. And this is the type of work that it always makes me happy, and I think they should probably be proud of it too, because these are such good, smart decisions. Like for us, adding information like this to the texture, to the surface of the puzzle is so much faster than actually creating a three-dimensional model and then attaching that to the puzzle. So like this, you can add a lot more detail, which is of course fantastic. So again, as I said before, a bit of more of a Merry Christmas type of mood, right? So a lot happier, a lot cheerier. And one of the things is that the Christmas that they depicted is also not really connected to a specific religion. I mean, it's more like the Hollywood type of Christmas that you see in Hollywood films. So a lot of the references that they use comes from, like, let's say, more American style setting than a European one. Again, European ones are a lot more moodier and heavier. So they add a lot of different type of, let's say, like people here are doing different things, right? Like you have like the Santa Claus talking to the people. There's the kid going to, I don't know what that thing is called, like
it's a sleigh.
Okay, the German word.
And I think the kid is dropping off a letter into the mailbox to send to Santa Claus.
Yeah, okay, the kid is doing the Santa Claus thing. These guys are going to buy some sweets, I think. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, that looks like some... and then up here, there's an entire party going on, right, with like pizzas and everything. So one of the idea was just this diversity of, what Christmas means to different people, and to kind of highlight, that there are these different ways to celebrate it, and it's also fine. As I mentioned before, this would be the first time where we basically hand off this task to another group of people, and we try to mentor them into creating an enjoyable puzzle, which I think worked great, but was still quite challenging, of course, from many different areas. One of them was because this puzzle has perhaps the most amount of attachment. I'm trying to think if this is true. Probably. This is probably the most amount of attachments we have ever done in a puzzle. For context, attachment is things that are not in the original 3D scan, but are modeled by us by hand and added to the puzzle. It's usually a difficult workflow because we have to create it, we have to come up with a concept. But on top of that is also the question of, is it going to be attached to the puzzle piece, or is it going to be part of the puzzle? So are you going to be puzzling this human on top of the thing as well? So depending on that, it's a lot of work. And, all these different lights, for example, are actually part of the puzzle, in the sense that this light is connecting to here, and it all just kind of like is part of puzzle pieces. And that's a lot of like handwork. So stuff like these are, tougher to do than maybe some of the people that are standing around, because they're not actually part of the puzzle. But they had a lot of fun, and I think the part that they have done also a fantastic job, and I think they would agree with me, is there's just so much color variation in this thing, right? So when you're creating a visual thing, you don't want to make it busy. So if you're going to add a lot of different color, you always have to keep an eye on the harmony to make sure that the picture remains harmonious. So this is still a very harmonious image, but it has a lot of different color, which I think people are going to be enjoying to puzzle. And the stories on top, of course, are going to be a joy to discover one by one. I'm going to be looking forward to what people think of that. So that's basically.
I want to give a special shout out to the interns who worked on this. Their names are Luna Mertz Figueroa, Luana Court, and Ramona Amar. Fantastic job, team, for putting together such a lovely holiday spirited puzzle. And I think if we see the before and after, you can really tell like the massive mood shift that it has gone through.
Yeah. So basically, just try to have this image in mind. I'm going to be switching to the original mesh. So yeah, that's how the original looks like. And this is how the final version looks like.
I mean, not only did it like have different colors, but it's like a whole different time of day, and the building is colored differently, and so many things.
A lot of work goes into this, which if we do our job good, it's invisible, right? So just to show you like just how much research like for the different things, just how much research goes to these different parts, how much ideation, how much thinking. And just to give you a simple example, for example, in the, let's say, the American style type of Christmas, something that's quite typical is there's just so much light on the street level that you have this big contrast between like festivity on the ground, and as you move up, it kind of like gets darker and darker. And that's something that we have also imitated here. That on the top, it's like and there's also little details here.
That's so cute.
Yeah, they are very cute. So again, like here, it's like full of lights. So the street level is full of light, and then you move up, and then it keeps getting darker and darker. So yeah, that's going to be the free puzzle that's going to come out. I am really looking forward to how people are going to play this one. When you do play it, please let us know if you enjoy it, what you enjoy it. Your feedback kind of like informs us in the future about what to do, right? If the more we know about what type of puzzle you guys like to play, the better the puzzle will be that we can create for you.
And since the last Dev Chat, we also had another free puzzle that we released, the Halloween special. That was probably one of the most praised puzzles we've released so far. Like, it seemed like many of you really liked to play the Halloween special. It just had it was just very thematic. It was very moody. It had the fog kind of rolling through. So I think that was really nice to hear from all you players, and we're going to try to incorporate some of the learnings that we had from that into future puzzles as well. But yeah, if you haven't played Puzzling Places for a while, we're always adding new content on a monthly basis. We have, of course, our monthly packs consisting of typically 6 new puzzles. We have premium puzzles that we're constantly working on, premium packs that take multiple months, like you saw with the Behind High Walls. And at the same time, for special occasions, we also like to put out free content every once in a while. Why not have something nice and sweet for free? So that's what this is. It's like our nice little holiday present for our players for being with us.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, Azad, maybe we should talk a bit about you talked a bit about the year, but I think it would be nice to also address, because people did ask about multiplayer, for example. Mm-hmm. We are working on it. I would say we kind of underestimated a bit how long it's going to take. We definitely underestimated how long the simple mode is going to take. Mm-hmm. We thought it's going to be way faster. But one of the things that for us so basically for us Puzzling Places, it's very important that everything in the game is extremely accessible. Because accessibility is basically the cap of how many people we can reach, and we really care about bringing this game to maximum number of people. So it takes a long time, and that's something we are also seeing in multiplayer. Just it takes a very long time we try to keep the scope as small as possible, so not make it too complicated. So the first version of multiplayer you will probably see is going to be very bare bones. It's going to be very simple for the players that have been with us since the time of the beta, so the side quest. You know that the first version of the Puzzling Places we released didn't even have a pushback. So if you pull the piece from the shelf, you had to commit to it. That was, you pull it, now you play it. Basically,
you had to walk it back if you wanted to put it back.
You have to walk it back by hand. So we are going to have a really bare bone first version, but again, we are keeping the scope small because we really want to polish this so that it feels right, so that it's accessible, so that, and I can't unfortunately say when that would be because it's very hard to know these things ahead of the time, but we are working on it. And beside that, we have been, doing some other stuff that we cannot announce yet regarding bringing Puzzling Places to even more players, but that's going to be announced at some point also. So next year we are going to be working on multiplayer. That's going to be probably the main thing that we are going to be working on. There are a bunch of feature requests from our players that are easy to do, like things like, hey, can I have a preset in the color picker? Every time I start a color, I have to per hand set it to my favorite color or whatever, a preset that I can save. Things like these are very easy to do. They're like 2-3 days of work. Unfortunately, we haven't had the time to do any of them, but maybe next year we can pick 3-4 of these features and then leave a sprint or two for doing some of the quality of life stuff that are not attached to the bigger releases. But that's more or less like kind of what's on the plan right now for the coming time.
Yeah, no, multiplayer has been a huge amount of effort. Even up until today, like I think multiple people have been working on it full time for the last, I don't know, half a year even, and that's just going to continue increasing as we get closer to finalizing first version that we can launch. We're also, of course, hoping to do a private / public beta within here our Discord community, because we'll need to just test things. We need to have multiplayer be played by multiple people, so it's hard to do that when we're a small team. But so definitely keep your eye out on our Discord community. We'll likely try to open up a sign-up sheet or a wait list to have people that are interested in testing. So we're not there yet, but I think that's definitely in our roadmap. Apart from that, as Shah mentioned, we also want to make Puzzling Places accessible to more players. So this year we had Pico launched the Pico 4, which we were also a launch title for. So that was really exciting. We've been on the Pico 3 Neo platform before, which was mostly available in China. So most of the people that are watching this, are likely not watching this from China, well, also because YouTube is not really accessible there. So Puzzling Places is also now on the Pico 4, and that's launched, I believe, only in Europe. I don't think you can buy it in the US yet, but we've had quite a few players that are telling us that they've been playing it on Pico. So that's also there's a few features that are missing from the Pico version that are in the Quest and the PlayStation version. Not for the lack of us not wanting for them to be there, but there's just limitations in the tools that are available to us. So notably, DLCs are not yet available on Pico. That's just like a feature that needs to come to us as a tool from the developers of Pico. But I think that should be coming probably sometime next year. What else? The pass-through is something that also a lot of players have been asking us about. I believe last time I checked, it's not yet available for Unreal Engine games, which is what Puzzling Places is built on. So once that becomes available, we're absolutely going to look into supporting that. And then most notably, though, we had a large visual upgrade from the Pico 3 version to Pico 4. So that's been really nice for Pico 4 players. We actually are going to have another visual upgrade that might be coming out, I think, today for Pico. So that's like another resolution bump, going from we thought we were rendering at the full resolution of the headset. Turns out it was the setting that we were using wasn't native, even though it was supposed to be. So now we're pushing it up even more. So that especially the menu is going to look really sharp and clear. So that's just going to play to the benefits of the headset. So that's on the Pico side. On the Quest side, we also, of course, launched in the Quest Pro. We were also a launch title there, so that was really exciting for us because, of course, Meta/Facebook / Oculus is very interested in mixed reality applications, and Puzzling Places having pass-through be such a simple way of playing the game, we were selected to be, one of the launch titles for the Quest Pro. So that was really exciting for us to be able to show that next generation headsets, like Puzzling Places, is like a really good way to play games in augmented reality or mixed reality, however you want to call it. And finally, I know a lot of players are asking us about PlayStation and PlayStation VR and also the upcoming PlayStation VR 2. We don't have anything to announce yet, but stay tuned. There will be news yet to come. Good news, but there will be news coming yet to come. So yeah, nothing to announce there yet. I think, retrospective-wise, that's mostly it. I mean, thank you all for celebrating our 1-year anniversary with us. That was back in September for the launch of Puzzling Places. That was really exciting. We also crossed, I think we're over 70, way over 70 puzzles now that are playable in Puzzling Places. That's a lot of puzzles, and most of them can also be played in 400 pieces, so that's a lot of hours of just playing the game. So if you have stories of how you like to play Puzzling Places, or what it means, how do you approach this, we'd love to hear it. I think last time when we had a call out for people to help leave reviews for the game, it was just really amazing to see how the game gets played, because we're living in our own little bubbles, whether we're working at home or in the office. We don't really know all the players and how it fits into their lives. So anytime you tell us how Puzzling Places makes you feel, or like what sort of a role it plays for you, it definitely warms up our hearts and makes us really happy. So if you have good things to tell us about our game, we're always love to hear it. Also, if it's not so good, we're also happy to hear it. But just constructive criticism goes a long way. I think that should be all that we have to announce for today. I think the game, also the puzzles should be coming out. This free holiday special should be coming out in about 12 minutes. So make sure you have your Quest or your PlayStation and also your Pico headset updated, or at least the game itself updated. And apart from that, have a good holidays, and we'll see you all next year. Hello and welcome to the team, Richelle. It's been really great having you here.
Thank you. It's been so great to be here. And this is a great dev chat. Thank you all so much for having me. And I hope everybody's excited about the new puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Shah, for taking us through the journey of what it takes to build a puzzle like this.
Well, credit all goes to the interns who did a fantastic job. I think you guys will see the love put in here, and when you do, think of their effort and attention to detail.
Yeah, great job all around. All right, thank you all for joining this dev chat, and we'll see you next year. Goodbye.